All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom. For those of you who are new to the channel, today is going to be a little bit of a different. This is an impromptu live stream. We do live streams every Friday after the market closes in the U.S. We also do a members-only live stream every Tuesday after the market close, which we did yesterday. But today I'm doing something a little different. Microstrategy made a move this week, so we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. So there was a big Bitcoin event this week. Microstrategy bought a bunch of Bitcoin again. So I want to go through Microstrategy. So this, again, is going to be a little bit different of a live stream. I want to do a little bit more of a presentation and talk about Microstrategy. We've talked about this on the channel. We've talked about this among the members more so. This is a play on Bitcoin. It's very close to a pure play on Bitcoin, even though MicroStrategy does have an existing business that, you know, has carried a market cap of somewhere in the $1 to $1.5 billion range before they ever even bought their first Bitcoin. So that business still exists. I'm not really going to talk about that part of the business today. I want to talk about what they're doing with Bitcoin, and I want to talk about how MicroStrategy works as a play on Bitcoin versus some of the other, you know, obviously a direct play on Bitcoin would be directly buying Bitcoin, but there's a lot of different ways to get access to Bitcoin, and I think this is growing in popularity as one of the ways to do so. So I want to go through because they have a very unique situation. No other company in the world is doing what they're doing. So I think it's interesting. I think it's worth going through and talking about. So I'm going to do a presentation on that. If everybody could do me a huge favor, if you could smash the like button, I would appreciate that. It helps out the live stream a lot. The more likes I get, the more this spreads, shows this live stream to other potential viewers. So it's a big help to the channel. It's much appreciated. So please, if you would, smash the like button. And if you are not a member, you can check out the channel and see if you like it. And if you do like what we have going on, obviously you can also, if you're not a subscriber or a member, you can subscribe on the channel by just hitting the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that as well. And again, just go check the channel out if you're new and you're not familiar with what we do. And, you know, if it's something that interests you, we do talk a lot about the Bitcoin miners. So, you know, it's a heavily focused on that. Obviously, as a function of that, we talk a lot about Bitcoin as well. We do have a membership program where we get into other small cap, high growth stocks for the most part, but we're very Bitcoin central. We'll talk more about the membership later. It's only $5 a month. You can join by hitting the join button on the YouTube channel, but we'll get to that later if you're interested. There's a bunch of additional content for members. So with that said, hello to, and I do see a bunch of members in the chat.
All right, welcome to Talking Investing.
So I just got a chat from a member. So Jeff has been a member for 12 months. So Jeff's been a member for a year, and that's just about as long as we've had the membership open. So thank you, Jeff. And Jeff has a member chat that says, join the membership if you haven't. Best membership around. Thank you, Jeff. Much appreciated. So like Jeff is probably one of the, if not the original member, but one of the first, handful of members. So thanks, Jeff, for joining and sticking with us for a year. It's been a wild year. Not exactly how everybody, we're certainly not sitting in the best case scenario, but I've got a lot of optimism. We'll also talk a little bit about sentiment on Bitcoin right now. We're almost done with September, which has traditionally been a really tough month for Bitcoin. So just a quick second to say hello to the members. Hello, FV702 and Darren and Crypto Fever, Cosmic Contrarian, Jeff, Barry, Miguel, Steven, Nathan, if I missed anybody. Also, I do see some other subscribers and regular viewers. So hello to everybody and welcome to the stream. So let's get going. let me walk through a little bit of what I'm seeing on MicroStrategy, and let's just start with the obvious. Let's talk about what they just did. So this came out September 25th, so that is now 2 days ago. Let's get to the important part here. Okay, so MicroStrategy acquired 5,445 Bitcoin for approximately $147.3 million in cash. So that is an average price of about $27,053 per Bitcoin. So I'll just take, actually, let me do this real quick. So, all right, I'm going to switch views so you can see what I'm looking at. And so basically, that's a little bit more than Bitcoin's trading at right now. So if we take a look at the chart, you're going to see Bitcoin right now is at around $26,233. We did have a little bit of a fake out today. We ran all the way up. Let's see what this got up to, $26,830 today. So, but you can see in a couple hours it ran up and then it turned right back around. This orange line, for those of you who are new to the channel, every day you'll see an orange line on my chart, and that is where Bitcoin was when the U.S. equity markets closed on the previous day. So you can see we're now 1 day later. We're, within a few, we're at the moment, we're $3 different than where we were when the U.S. equity markets closed yesterday. So despite this giant fake out in the middle, we really returned right back to the exact same spot that we were in yesterday. So we've been very, very sideways. September's been a very sideways month. We're getting close to the end. We got 3 more days. There's a chance we're going to finish in the green in September, which rarely happens. But if it is in the green, it will only be by a little bit. This was a rough month for the equities. And as an extension of that, we follow the Bitcoin miners quite a bit on the channel. This was a very rough month for the Bitcoin miners, considering the fact that it looks like September may actually end up being green for Bitcoin. The miners are all down, 25, 30, 40% just in the last 1 month. So, that's not what today's stream is about, but I just mentioned that because obviously that's a big part of what we talk about on the channel. So again, to get back, the point was they averaged in at around $27,000. So we got to 26,800 today, but they're down 1,000 from where they averaged in. But this is a very small piece of the amount of Bitcoin that they own. So we're going to go through that. I want to show you how many Bitcoin they own, what they're doing to potentially increase that. We'll take a look at their balance sheet. There's a lot of stuff to look at. Like I said, this is a very, very unique play on Bitcoin. There is not another company in the world that's doing anything that even remotely resembles this. So it's a very unique play on Bitcoin, and I think it's worth a look for everybody. And one of the big, gigantic topics of conversation has been the Bitcoin spot ETF. The SEC just once again delayed, I believe it was yesterday, on ARK Invest. Their time was up. They had to make a decision on that. So once again, they've kicked the can down the road. So they continue to delay and delay and delay on the Bitcoin ETF. So in the meantime, there's a few things that in certain ways resemble what would be a Bitcoin spot ETF, and MicroStrategy is one of them. So the Bitcoin Grayscale Trust is the other one. So those are your two different scenarios. They both have different, potential upsides. They're not the same. So I'm going to explain what MicroStrategy is. So they bought 5,445 Bitcoin. Let's put that in perspective. So this is from their most recent investor presentation in the month of I think they put this out in August or September, and this relates to their quarterly report that they just put out. The quarterly report is for the period ended June 30th, 2023, but you'll see they've updated their Bitcoin total through July 31st, 2023. And now what we just read was an update from August 1st through, the present. So they they had 152,800 Bitcoin before they just bought, another 5,000 plus Bitcoin. So, they're at about 158,000 Bitcoin now. So just to quickly show you an article, and I won't spend too much time on this. This firm now holds 4.1 billion in Bitcoin, the most of any company in the world. So they hold the most of their own Bitcoin, right? This is not in custody for others. This is not an exchange. This is their Bitcoin. So they just bought another 5,445. They own more Bitcoin than any other company in the world. And that's why I say this is a unique play. So here's Michael Saylor put out a tweet, if that's what we're still calling them, on what is now X. Microstrategy has acquired an additional 5,445 Bitcoin. As of 9/24, MicroStrategy holds 158,245 Bitcoin, acquired for approximately $4.68 billion at an average price of $29,500. So you'll see at the moment we're at about $26,200. So they're about $3,000 upside down on this. But if you follow what MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor are doing, they are long-term on Bitcoin. He has a price targets that are, significantly higher than this. I think he's looking at $500,000 or $1 million somewhere 10 years down the road, maybe, or less than that. So the price action has not affected MicroStrategy at all. They continue to dollar cost average into Bitcoin pretty much regardless of the price. So that's one thing that is important to know about MicroStrategy. They're not worried, is it at 26,000 right now and our cost basis is 29,000. That's not their equation. Their equation is we think it's going to be 200,000 and then 500,000 and then 1 million. So that's what their scenario is. And obviously in those numbers, first of all, most of those numbers are likely way out into the future, but 7 to 10 years from now seems like a long time. However, it's a fairly short time for long-term investors. So depending where you are in your investment journey, depending how old you are, most people still have 10 years left in their investment journey from a buy and hold standpoint. So, if you believe that Bitcoin is gonna 20 or 30x in that period of time, which is, what Michael Saylor thinks, then obviously that would be an outstanding investment over that period of time. Also, Michael Saylor did step down as the CEO of his own company. He is the chairman of the board of his company, and he stepped down as the CEO specifically because he is now basically in charge of Bitcoin and Bitcoin strategy, and he is a Bitcoin ambassador, and he's trying to educate corporations in specific and the world on Bitcoin to enhance, and accelerate Bitcoin's adoption throughout corporate America and beyond. So there's a lot of corporate money, and all the institutional money that's not really in Bitcoin yet. So, I would say he's probably the most high-profile person out there, and he did step down as the CEO of his business because MicroStrategy does have a computing business that's completely separate of this. So I did mention prior to them even buying any Bitcoin, the value of that business was fluctuated between $1 to $1.5 billion. So, it's a reasonable sized business, but that is not what he's doing anymore. This 152, which is now 158,000 Bitcoin, is the vast majority of MicroStrategy's balance sheet. And it's obviously where they have bet their future on Bitcoin. So they've also done so through some leverage. So this is a leveraged play on Bitcoin. They have a large amount of debt. I want to look at the balance sheet, but I want to talk about that debt because it's very unique debt, and it does allow, a significant amount of time for Bitcoin to get where it's going. So it's some unique debt. you know, if inside of the Bitcoin miners, Marathon was able to do something similar to this, although they just undid about 65% of it very recently. So let's take a look at that. Again, anybody, if you're on the stream, if you could do us a great big favor and smash the like button, it does help the stream out a lot. It spreads the stream in real time, so much appreciated if you would smash the like button. Okay, let's get back. Okay, so this is another slide from their earnings presentation. This shows the amount of, so at March 31st, they had 140,000 Bitcoin. That was their last financial statement. As of July 31st, now this is 1 month past their financial statement that they just reported. And now we know if we go all the way to today, it's not 152,800. It's now about 158,000. You'll see most of these are unencumbered. So I'm going to go look at their balance sheet and talk about their debt because they have an enormous amount of debt. But their Bitcoin is not securing that debt. So you're going to see they show over here this number 90%. 90% of their Bitcoin is unencumbered. So this is not secured by that debt. So that does leave them a lot of flexibility to potentially continue to borrow more money in the future to buy more Bitcoin. And I'm going to show you another big move they just made recently that kind of tipped their hand that they were about to buy more Bitcoin. And I think there's a lot more ahead. They're nowhere near done. From everything that Michael Saylor has said and from what we're going to talk about on this stream, I don't think they're anywhere near done buying Bitcoin. You know, they have been consistently buying Bitcoin every single quarter. They have not missed a quarter since they started. And if I go back to this screen, you can see this is quarter by quarter by quarter. So you'll see every single quarter. The closest thing they did was in this period here, Q2 of 2022 to Q3 to Q4. That was the smallest amount that they added here. And these were obviously 2022 was a crypto winter. This was a really tough time. And so that was the least amount that they've added. But you'll see in a short period of time, Q3 of 2020, they had 38,000 Bitcoin. They now have 158,000. So, you know, they've consistently added Bitcoin all the way along. And the fact that Michael Saylor has basically said he is now, his sole function is to work on their Bitcoin philosophy and strategy as a company. You know, that's the single biggest thing that tells you they will continue to buy Bitcoin going forward. Okay, so let me go to the balance sheet before I go to this slide. And that would be here. Okay, so if you look at their balance sheet, you're going to see long-term debt, $2.1 billion. So that's a significant amount of long-term debt. But I'm going to go break that long-term debt down because they have very special terms on this debt that normal companies don't get this type of debt. And you're going to see another thing, digital assets at $2.3 billion. So I am going to sidetrack us right now before we get to the debt portion. Their digital assets are $2.3 billion. That is their Bitcoin. They hold Bitcoin. This is all Bitcoin. So if you do the math, you'll see their Bitcoin's actually worth an awful lot more than that. And that leads me to, let me find what I'm looking for here. Just a second. This might be it. Okay, here we go. All right, so FASB's crypto accounting shakeup could lure more corporate investment. This says from Michael Saylor, and others argue. So I want to show you, I want to talk about what is going on with this. fair value accounting is coming to Bitcoin. This is another tweet. I'm going to call them tweets for lack of whatever a better word that it is that they're calling them now. This upgrade to FASB accounting rules eliminates a major impediment to corporate adoption of Bitcoin as a treasury asset. So he's talking about this in general, but I want to get to specifically what this means for MicroStrategy. Let me find the paragraph here very quickly. Okay. All right. So MicroStrategy's roughly 152,300 Bitcoin. So this, this was before the news just came out that they bought some more. At the end of the second quarter, was carried on their books for $2.3 billion. That is a whopping 50% or $2.3 billion less than the fair market value at that time. So we just looked at the balance sheet. You're going to see digital assets of $2.3 billion. When this accounting change is finalized, and I'm guessing MicroStrategy will probably be among the first ones, if not the first one, to adopt this into their financial statements, there's somewhere north of $2 billion of gain that MicroStrategy is going to get immediately at the current price of Bitcoin. So that is going to be a game changer for them. So when you look at their balance sheet, it looks like maybe there's a big leveraged play going on here, but there's $2 billion of worth currently missing from this balance sheet. And based on the accounting change that we already know is coming, they're going to get to add to this back to their balance sheet. And I'm going to read this quote right here. Most companies are widely held and not controlled by one majority holder, unlike Michael Saylor at MicroStrategy. When the momentum towards a switch to fair value accounting was building, the career risk for those in charge was just too great for them to dive in and allocate their treasury cash to Bitcoin in lieu of straight cash. So this is what I've been talking about on the channel a lot. This is a gigantic barrier to all of corporate publicly traded companies because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, also because they want to keep their job. The current accounting method is very punishing towards holding Bitcoin. It's treated essentially as an intangible asset, so you have to write your Bitcoin down, and it has to stay down. You don't get to write it back to fair market. That is going to change. Let me see if I think it sums it up somewhere in here nicely. Okay, currently accounting rules only let companies record increases in the value of their digital assets when they sell them. So, of course, when you sell them, you record a gain on sale. But if you're holding digital assets, and Bitcoin is a buy and hold for, most of these companies, it says, though losses are reflected at least once a year, the Financial Accounting Standards Board voted to take another path, letting companies use fair value accounting that allows them to show gains and losses immediately on their income statements. So that means as Bitcoin goes up, companies can write up the value. In the past, it's only been as Bitcoin goes down, companies needed to write the value down. So that's why there's basically $2+ billion of not recognized fair value on the not on the balance sheet of MicroStrategy. So that is going to be an instant change to their balance sheet. Obviously, they're going to have one quarter where they make this change that they're going to show, a $2+ billion of profitability in that quarter. And, the market already knows that's a one-off event, but it does change the balance sheet side of this. It does change the equity in this company greatly, and it will show that this is not nearly the leveraged play that it seems like it is right now. And what I mean by that is, if you look at stockholders' equity right now, it looks like they have about $800 million of equity. And then if you go look at, let me get to the right. page here. If you go look at their market cap, it's over $4 billion. So it looks like there's, you know, $3 or $3.5 billion of additional market cap versus their book value. And the two pieces of that puzzle would be this company, like I said, even before they had any Bitcoin, they were trading at about $1 billion or $1.5 billion. So there's that piece of the puzzle, plus another $2 billion that they will add to their market cap, or sorry, to their book value when they adopt the new accounting rules. So, you know, that'll probably be somewhere in the year 2024. And, you know, it's my personal opinion that they will probably be among the first or possibly the first to make this adoption. It's going to have a by far bigger impact on their financial statements than anybody else's financial statements in the world, because they are the single largest holder of Bitcoin of all publicly traded companies. Even the Bitcoin miners, Marathon holds the most Bitcoin out of all the Bitcoin miners. And to put it in perspective, if we go back, you'll see MicroStrategy owns 150. It's now 158,000. It was 152,800. Marathon owns about 13,000. And they hold the most Bitcoin of any of the Bitcoin miners that are publicly traded in North America, actually publicly traded around the world. So MicroStrategy holds more than 10 times that. The impact on this is going to be, you know, by far the largest for MicroStrategy. So that's basically that piece of the puzzle. I think it's an important piece to understand. Not only is it going to help MicroStrategy, but it's also going to open the doors to a lot of other companies saying, okay, you know, now I'm willing to buy some Bitcoin because I can hold it on my books at fair market value like I hold all of my other investments. Many companies have lots of investments. They have diverse portfolios of investments. They just don't hold everything in cash. It's just that none of them, or next to none of them, are holding Bitcoin in treasury right now mainly because of, well, there's two reasons. It's an extremely volatile asset, but also because of this punitive accounting for it that makes their balance sheet look worse. So the next piece that I want to look at is on August 1st. This was simultaneous with the day they put out their quarterly financial statements for the period ended June 30th. They also announced a $750 million at-the-market shelf offering. That's another $750 million that we know what they do with these. This is not their first shelf offering. We see that they continue to buy Bitcoin. Now, they just spent $147 million since August 1st. And let me go back to that. They spent $147 million. We looked at that to buy 5,445 or whatever the number was of Bitcoin. So they've already spent almost $150 million, but that leaves still $600 million left of this at the market offering. Or sorry, this is a shelf offering. So they can do this whenever they want. Essentially, a shelf offering works, for those of you who don't know, and I know a lot of you do know, a shelf offering works, they're allowed to use this whenever they want. They can issue equity, shares of stock, for whatever purpose they deem necessary. And in the case of MicroStrategy, it is highly likely that all of this is going to be used to buy Bitcoin. They don't really have a cash flow issue as a company. So, you know, some majority of this, and, you know, approaching potentially 100% of this, will be used to buy Bitcoin over the next couple of years. And they may go even faster than that. They seem to be fairly methodical, though. You'll see in this 2 months, they've spent $147 million to buy more Bitcoin. So that's the main thing that happened at this moment. And I'll go back. This was a Form 8K, so this is filed with the SEC. This was Form 8K filed September 25th, which was just 2 days ago, and this informed the market that from August 1st to September 24th, they purchased 5,445 Bitcoin, and they spent $147.3 million to do so. I think we can expect to see periodically continuous Form 8Ks filed by them on a regular basis, reporting how much Bitcoin they continue to buy. They've given no indication of slowing down at all. So this is their strategy. This is what they do. Now I want to talk about their debt, circling back around, because this is a very unique situation. If we look on their balance sheet, they have almost $2.2 billion worth of debt. That would be a little bit concerning. For me, if I looked at a normal balance sheet and I saw $2.2 billion of debt, every company is different. Every industry works a little different. So it all depends. But this is a big number, and it looks like a big number versus their total assets of $3.3 billion. Now, remember, they're going to get to add potentially $2 billion or $2.5 billion to this, even if Bitcoin doesn't go up a penny, just when they convert to the new accounting method. So if they can convert to the new accounting method, and let's say Bitcoin runs up to 50,000 a year from now, that would quadruple the amount of their digital assets, because they would be able to recognize all of them at full value. So, there's the potential that this $3 billion in assets could be $6 billion or $8 billion, even within the next 12 months. So that starts to put this $2 billion in a little different light. Instead of being equal to the amount of their digital assets, this could end up being significantly less than their assets in a very short period of time. There's no guarantee of that, depending on what Bitcoin does, obviously. But if you're bullish on Bitcoin and you think that Bitcoin will continue to at least go sideways, if not go up, most people believe, well, I won't say most people, probably most people on this stream are reasonably bullish on Bitcoin on a longer term time frame. So that being 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So if you're bullish on Bitcoin in those periods of time, I'm going to show you how the debt strategy they've taken it, because that's the time frame that they have in mind here. So I'm going to get to that right now and talk about. So balance sheet, principal debt maturities. They have $2.177 billion in debt. In the year 2023, none of that debt comes due. They will pay zero in principal on debt in the year 2023. The Bitcoin halving is going to be April of 2024. All things staying the same. It looks like that's going to be in April of 2024. In the year 2024, Microstrategy is going to have to pay again zero principal on their $2.177 billion of debt. So this is one of the reasons where, this 2, 3, 5 year time frame starts to really benefit them. As long as Bitcoin gets where it's going, at some point, they don't have any debt due in 2023. They don't have any debt due in 2024. In 2025, and really almost the entire year, not until December of 2025, does any of their debt come due. And these are senior convertible notes. These notes, I believe, convert in the mid $300 per share. If we look at what MicroStrategy is trading for today, they're trading for $315 a share. So if they are at $400 or $500 a share 2+ years from now, then it's likely they will not have to pay this $650 million of debt. So the first debt that comes due is 2 full years from now, more than 2 years from now. And in all likelihood, unless Bitcoin does very poorly, that they probably will pay nothing for that. That will get converted into equity. The other thing to note is the interest rate on this debt is at less than 1%. It's 0.75%. That's about the lowest interest rate I've ever seen on any corporate debt. Now, convertible debt can carry very low interest rates. So you've got a very, very low amount of interest they're going to have to pay in the next 2 years. This is basically 10 quarters, 9 quarters. So it's well over 2 years at 0.75% on this $650 million. Then in the year 2026, zero principal is due. So it's possible that in 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026, if Bitcoin has done anything, even move up to $30,000 or $35,000, this debt right here is going to get converted to equity. So they'll go 4 years without paying any principal on that $2.177 billion in debt. So I think that's how things are shaping up. In my opinion, obviously this is not financial advice. In my opinion, that is the most likely case scenario. The next thing they have, in February of 2027, they have $1 billion of, again, senior convertible notes that come due. Now, these notes carry a 0% interest. They pay no interest on these. So $1 billion of this debt has no interest for the next 1, 2, 3, basically the next 4 years. $1 billion of their debt is interest-free. So there's no principal due on it, and there's no interest due on it. So, effectively, that debt really doesn't even exist, if you will, for the next 4 years. The one thing I'll say about this debt is this $1 billion of debt is convertible at over $1,000 a share. So Bitcoin is going to have to do something. By my calculations, Bitcoin will have to be over $50,000 at least for them to have a reasonable chance of converting this debt to equity and not having to pay back this $1 billion. If Bitcoin's at, say, 75,000 or 100,000, then it is highly probable, in my opinion, that this will also get converted and they won't have to pay this either. So now you'll be at $1.7 billion of their debt that never gets paid back, $1 billion of which is at 0% interest, $650 million of which is at less than 1% interest. So this is a very desirable situation for them. Now when you look at their balance sheet, and I'll just go back there quickly, and you look at this long-term debt of $2.1 billion, 75% of that may never get paid back at all and is at, if you average it, is at, less than 0.5% interest. That's about the best debt you can possibly get. So there is no clock on this. One of the big things that people talked about in 2022 was, at what price, does MicroStrategy get liquidated? At what price does Bitcoin have to get down to before their debt overwhelms them and they have to liquidate? Well, I just showed you, basically, there really is I won't say there's no price, but if we go back to this slide, 90% of their Bitcoin is unencumbered. So they never have to, this is safe. It's only this 15,731 Bitcoin that are encumbered. So that would calculate, Bitcoin would have to get down to, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000. It may even be less than that. Now, basically, Bitcoin would have to completely fail. And at that point, MicroStrategy, as a getting close to a pure play. It's not a pure play, but it's widely considered a play on Bitcoin. Obviously, at Bitcoin 5,000 or 4,000 or 3,000, everything Bitcoin and Bitcoin related is beyond a crypto winter. That would be significantly worse than the worst crypto winter we've ever had. That doesn't mean it's impossible. It does seem like a very unlikely scenario, in my opinion. So the last piece of the puzzle is they do have some actual debt here in 2028. This is not convertible debt. This is senior secured notes at 6.125% interest. So they have $500 million of legitimate debt. It's all legitimate, but this is not convertible debt. It's not, 0% interest debt. This is pretty standard debt, and it's at 6%. So there is some debt, there is some interest expense that they will incur over time. This is not a company that has a cash flow problem. They are cash flow positive regardless of the price of Bitcoin. That will not affect their cash flow at all. They will have to cover this 6% interest for the next 5+ years. And this debt is due in June of 2028. So there's $500 million of more traditional debt. So out of the $2.177 billion of debt, $500 million is traditional debt, and that comes due in 2028. This debt situation, I think, was very important to walk through because it's a big, big piece of how they're leveraging themselves. And you can see they've managed to leverage themselves in a way that is very, very low risk versus a lot of the other leveraged plays. On our channel, we talk about Bitcoin miners a significant amount of time. The Bitcoin miners are a much more leveraged play. There's much more risk involved in the Bitcoin miners. And I'm not saying that makes them a bad investment. I actually hold a bunch of the Bitcoin miners. And, not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to buy them. I know a lot of members are on the stream right now. And I know a lot of our members also own some Bitcoin miners. They're a leveraged play on Bitcoin. And they're higher risk because they do spend money to mine Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin takes longer to get where it's going, it's not going to affect MicroStrategy very much because you're going to see, no debt due in 2023, no debt due in 2024. In all likelihood, this debt gets converted to equity in 2025 and then no debt due in 2026. They don't have to spend money mining Bitcoin. They do have at the market offerings, so they do continue to dilute themselves and buy more Bitcoin. So their thesis is Bitcoin's going to go up over time. If that holds true, then MicroStrategy will end up being probably a winning investment. So that's why I say it's more and more becoming a pure play. We can't say it's a pure play. They do have an existing business that goes on top of all this. But a bigger and bigger and bigger piece of their puzzle, the vast majority of their puzzle is Bitcoin. So they have managed to amass more Bitcoin than any other publicly traded company in the world. They're just under 160,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet right now as of this most recent update. And for those of you who joined late or in the middle, we'll just take a quick look and get to that exact number. They have 158,245 Bitcoin. That's as of 3 days ago. And their cost basis per Bitcoin, and this is from the first Bitcoin they bought all the way through to the 5,445 that they just bought in this announcement. They've averaged in at $29,582. I want to just do a calculation real quickly, and then I'll tell you what the answer to that is. So $29,582 times, and I think they say this somewhere. Okay, so 4.68. I don't have to do the math. They did it for me. They have spent $4.68 billion on Bitcoin. They only get to show it for $2.3 billion on their balance sheet. And that is as a reflection of the fact that the accounting treatment has forced them to record this at essentially the lowest possible price. That accounting treatment is going to change, so there's a gigantic amount of money that's going to get added to their balance sheet. They're not down 50% on their Bitcoin. They're averaged in at $29,000, and Bitcoin's at 26,000 change right now. So they're only down a little bit. Their balance sheet shows them down 50%. I will do the math on this. This will take me just 1 second. Oh, if I had done it right. Divided by... Yeah, so right now they're forced to show they're forced to have their Bitcoin on their balance sheet at $15,204. And this is based on the accounting rules that currently exist. Well, we already know the Financial Accounting Standards Board in the United States has agreed to change those rules. Instead of carrying their Bitcoin at $15,000 per Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they're going to get to carry their Bitcoin at the market value. If Bitcoin runs up to $50,000 in the next 12 months, that's more than a triple this $2.3 billion. So that's going to, their digital assets will more than triple if Bitcoin gets to $50,000. Even if Bitcoin doesn't change at all, their digital assets will approximately double just by converting to this method. And from there forward, they get to record them each time Bitcoin increases over the course of time. They will get to recognize that on their balance sheet and, more importantly, their income statement. And it's going to be a truer picture. So this is a good piece of the puzzle for MicroStrategy. I think it's already getting priced in, but I don't think it's fully priced in yet. And it's a positive catalyst going forward. Between that and the fact that they've given themselves a massive amount of time by stretching out this $2+ billion of debt over many, many years, most of this is at or near zero, between 0 and 1% interest. So that's kind of that is the picture of MicroStrategy, in my opinion. I think that sums up what they are and who they are and why this is a play on Bitcoin and why it's a little bit of a safer, not a little bit. This is a more direct play and, in my opinion, a less volatile, lower risk play than the Bitcoin miners. Now, lower risk usually equals lower reward. So I do think for the Bitcoin miners, and I know, this is a MicroStrategy video, for the Bitcoin miners that succeed, and we don't know nobody can say with certainty who those are and how many of those are. I do believe some will have great success while others aren't going to make it to the finish line and probably go out of business. But for the ones that succeed, that risk-reward equation is going to work in their favor, and they may be an even bigger win than MicroStrategy. But it does look to me, in my opinion, MicroStrategy will probably still be a little bit of a leverage to the upside versus just straight out holding Bitcoin. So this is a way to have some leverage and a little bit less risk. A lot of you will have different strategies. I think there's 4 main ways to play Bitcoin, the most obvious of which is just to buy and hold Bitcoin. I think that for Bitcoin purists, there's a lot of people that's their number one strategy. Those people will tell you to, get your Bitcoin off of exchange. That's not really what this video is about either, and that's obviously your own personal decision. But the easiest way, or the most direct 1-to-1 ratio, would be to hold Bitcoin. There's also the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. That's trading at about a 20% discount right now. They have an application in to have that trust turn into a spot ETF. If that is ultimately approved, that discount will disappear. So that's an additional 20% you'll get to make on your money. But that's it. That's where the leverage ends. That's a fixed amount, one time only. And then that will essentially should play the same as a pure play holding Bitcoin. So that's the second way. And then you have MicroStrategy, which we just spent the last however long talking about. That's a more leveraged play. So higher risk, higher reward. But you see what their strategy is. They think over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, Bitcoin will have a big run to the upside. If that's true, then MicroStrategy will have an even bigger run to the upside in all likelihood, making it a leveraged play on Bitcoin. And then the last and highest risk reward play is the Bitcoin miners. And if you're interested in the Bitcoin miners, you can check out our channel. If you enjoy the content, please subscribe to the channel. And we cover the Bitcoin miners. We talk about Bitcoin as a function of that all the time, obviously. We cover the Bitcoin miners in great detail. And like I said, those are the highest risk-reward equation out of all of these. It's been a rough ride for Bitcoin miners over time. It's been a big roller coaster ride. Even if you're just in Bitcoin, you know it's been a roller coaster ride. Cryptocurrency is very volatile. As this matures and there's a lot of catalysts ahead, I think there will be more and more adoption, and that's going to start to take some of the risk out of this. But for the time being and for the indefinite future and until further notice, I think it's fair to assume cryptocurrency is a highly volatile asset group. Bitcoin is at roughly 50% of all cryptocurrency right now. So the Bitcoin dominance is how they refer to that, is hovering right around 50%. So half of all cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. It's been less than that in the past. It's been more than that in the past, but it's 50% right now. So those are the different ways to cover Bitcoin. Those are my thoughts on MicroStrategy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this deep dive live stream. Let me know if you guys enjoy this type of content. This was basically a deep dive on MicroStrategy as a live stream versus doing it as a taped, delayed video, if you will. So thank you everybody for joining on the stream. Special thanks to all of the members and to all of the subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Everybody's been smashing the like button on our videos, and it's been making a big difference. So I want to thank everybody who's watched the videos and who's smashed the like button. It's really helping to support the channel through what was a very rough September for investors in general. I know the market had a rough month. Bitcoin was very sideways. The Bitcoin miners were down quite a bit. So it's been rough all around. There's a lot of things that don't look great right now, but I'm trying to remain optimistic. And we'll see what happens. October historically has been a very good month for Bitcoin. So I don't put a massive amount of weight into that. Every year is different, but there is a lot of optimism, I think, or some optimism for that reason. October has been 8 of the last 10 Octobers have been green for Bitcoin. That is the best month out of the 12 months of the year. So there is some optimism coming into this, and I'm going to hold that position. Let's keep a good thought. Again, thank you very much, everybody, for joining in. If you appreciate this live stream, smash the like button. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you're interested, we do have a membership. It's $5 a month. It's the cheapest membership that, probably that's out there. And there's a lot that comes with the membership. We have a members-only chat once a week. We have, a members-only live stream once a week, every single week. We also have a members-only Discord that's open 24/7. And I do a members-only video every single week for the members. So there's a big bunch of content built up there waiting if you're interested in joining the membership. I guess that's it. Thanks again. Thanks, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I will see you in the next video. And for those of you interested, of course, we will have our regularly scheduled live stream Friday after the market closes. We do that every week, Friday after the market closes. So hope to see all of you guys there. And thanks again for joining on this live stream today.